Hello and good evening, CTS267 Section 840 students for the Spring 2017 semester at Anne Arundel Community College. This is the CCNP TSHOOT course, and this evening's video tutorial is going to be a video tutorial and solution set on challenge activity number 15 from our Cisco Learning Labs curriculum. And so once again, we're working with the Bank of Polona, or the Polona Bank here. So let's get our scenario up and let's start troubleshooting. And we'll move the pen tool out there because we'll need that at some point. All right, so let's see where we are at here. Okay, so over the weekend, the customer reconfigured IPv4 routing and moved the newly acquired branch 3 from EIGRP to OSPF. And so that sounds like it might be, oh wait, and Polona also fine-tuned OSPF a little bit. Upgrade's not a complete success, so looks like we've got 3 tickets, and we'll pick the first ticket to start things off. So branch 1 cannot reach the headquarters via IPv4. The user on PC 1 reports he's unable to ping PC 0 and notes that it worked fine before the upgrade. All right, needs to be fixed as soon as possible. So let's take a look at the job aids. If PC 1 is unable to ping PC 0, my guess is that we are not going to be able to get to PC 1. So branch 1 and PC 1 is, all right. To connect to the routers at the branch offices, we're going to telnet from HQ. So 192.168.1.101. So let's jump on the HQ router here and go from user exec to privilege exec. And we're going to say telnet 192.168.101.1. And did I misread that IP? I am terrible with these IP addresses. 1.101, not 101.1. All right, so let's try that again. 1.101. Destination unreachable, host or gateway down. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start our troubleshooting here with a quick show IP route. So do I have any routing information for the 192.168.1.101? And that's typically what this error message is, typically an indicator that I don't have a route in my routing table. When we look at this, I don't see 192.168.1.0 or 1.101. I don't see anything for 192.168.1. So this may actually be, let's double check, 192.168.1, and I'll just say .1.0. Yeah, the network is not in the table. So let's take a quick look here at the diagram. I want to see if they give us a breakdown. So HQ has no route to the 192.168.1, and that should be an interface. All right, do we have anything else here? All right, looks like we've got some tunnels and HQ's information. All right, let's get back on HQ here and let's say show IP interface brief. All right, and so this is an interesting one. Show run interface tunnel. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, it was right there in front of me. I looked right past this. I thought I saw the 209 and associated with that entry. So yeah, so this is probably the issue here. You'll notice that tunnel 1 has no IP address assigned. So let's take a look at show run int tunnel 1, and it's got no IP address. If we take a look at tunnel 2, tunnel 2's got an IP, tunnel 3 has an IP, and that is probably show IP OSPF neighbors. And what do we have here? Yeah, so we have no neighbor relationship. So again, we know that we're running OSPF. The previous scenarios have shown that. So taking a look at the show IP interface brief, based off the fact that we were trying to get a look at how the interfaces were configured, we noticed the tunnel interface, tunnel 1 specifically, does not have an IP assigned. And my guess is it's going to be 11.1. And let me take a look here real quick. I know it listed the tunnel 11.2. Sorry, 11.2. Okay, so the tunnel interface is going to be 11.2, and that let's get back here into privilege exec. Let's get into global config. Let's go into interface tunnel 1, and let's go ahead and say IP address 192.168.11. 11.2. I wonder why it showed 11.2. And these are all 11, or these are all .1s. Hold on one second. I'm not convinced. Maybe I was reading that backwards. Okay, here we go. Oh, tunnel 1. I'm sorry. So yeah, the branch is... So this is showing the branch is 11.1, 12.1, 13.1 on the branch side. And we're seeing that HQ, if I'm reading this right, HQ should be 12. These all can't be wrong. Yeah, I'm looking at it backwards. It is 12.1. Why did I think it was... Well, that's funny. Show IP interface brief shows the tunnel IP is 12.2. Oh, yeah, and that is the neighbor address. Huh. Okay, so we're going to do 192.168.11.2. And again, I could be reading that chart wrong, but that clearly looks, and it's a /30. All right, so let's see what happens here. 11.2, 255, 255, 255, 252. And that should bring our tunnel interface up. Do show run in tunnel 1. Let's make sure that we've got the tunnel source, the tunnel destination. The crypto map was on there. Do show IP interface brief. All right, so it shows that it's up. So now let's say do show IP route for the 192.168.1.0. Still not in the table. Do show IP route. So we're not learning that via OSPF, it appears. Let's take a look at the OSPF. So do show run section router OSPF. And yes, that is the problem, is we do not have a network statement here. So we could go under the interface and put it, but it looks like everything is going to be located here, so we'll keep with what they've got here. So we're going to say network 192.168.11.0, 0.0.0.2, 55. That's funny. All right, 255. Yeah, because we did that, and those are also well, here, let's do this, and that's going to be area 1 from the drawing. Huh. So this is interesting. Okay, so we did it as a /24. We didn't make it as restricted as we could have, and that's fine. And so the adjacency is up. So now let's say do show IP route 192.168.1.0. My guess is we're learning this, and we are, from across the branch. All right, so now we've got connectivity. So let's go back to the job aid. Let's get the IP for the PC1. 100. Let's get on PC0. And now let's say ping 192.168.1.100. So do we have a little ARP action? And now let's trace that out as well. Yeah, so it looks like there were a couple issues there. And I guess that's going to fall under, I should have said numeric, I apologize. And this is going to fall under the caveat that they typically give that says, it's usually at the bottom or around the bottom, where it says the information may or may not be accurate. So I don't see it in there. But again, we've got connectivity, so that is taken care of. Let's go back to the scenario. So again, we had two issues there. One was OSPF, the OSPF process not enabled on the tunnel interface. And then the addressing is backwards. If I'm reading that chart right, the addressing's backwards for the branches and the headquarters tunnels. And then we needed to advertise, I'm sorry, there was no IP address on the tunnel interface, which is what was also needed to be fixed. All right, so although the customer configured OSPF summarization, so we get a nice big fat clue right here. That remember, they redid branch 3 from EIGRP to OSPF, and there are still individual routing entries for all the 172. Now, as soon as you read this, you should be thinking to yourself that there's something wrong with the area range command, right? So the area range command, it's not like EIGRP. Remember, with EIGRP, we type in IP summary address, EIGRP autonomous system number, and then whatever the summary address is going to be, and we're good to go. With OSPF, it's a little bit different, right? Because there's a couple of ways to summarize things. We summarize intra-area make sure I say this right. Inter-area prefixes differently than we summarize external routing information. And so with inter-area OSPF information, we have to do it. We do it on the ABR, and we use the area range command. So let's confirm the problem first. So let's get on the HQ router, and do we see all of the entries for the 172.16? And boy, do we. Right? I can clearly see why they would like to have a summary. And again, you can see that this is all coming across the tunnel. So when we look at the diagram, who is the ABR here? Right? Is branch 3 going to be considered the ABR? Or is the headquarters router going to be considered the ABR? And remember the definition of the ABR, right? The definition of an area border router is an OSPF router that has one interface in area 0 and one interface in a non-area 0 area, right? So branch 3, I don't believe, has any interfaces in area 0. And if we get onto the HQ router here, do show IP OSPF interface brief. Let's see what we have on tunnel 3 here. You can see tunnel 3 is in area 3, right? So tunnel 3 is in area 3, which means that we are the ABR. If I say do show IP OSPF, we should see that it tells us that we are, and I typically go right by this, routers originating LSAs. It should say in here that we are an area border router. No authentication. Area 1, Area 2, Area 3. No authentication. Or is it do show IP? It's not protocols. Do show IP protocols. Let's check that real quick. Yeah, okay, there we go. Sorry. It's do show IP protocols. It is an area border router and autonomous system boundary router. So we can see that we're an ABR, right? And we know that we're the ABR because we have an interface in area 0, at least one interface in area 0, and at least one interface in a non-area 0 area. So with that, we should be able to say do show run section router OSPF. And the question is, do we have an area range command here? And the answer is no, we don't. So we need the area range command. So we're already in, I believe we're already in router OSPF 1. So for all those 172s, we'll take the easy way out. We'll just do it as a class B. So let's say area 0 range 172.16.0.00. Oh, I'm sorry, 255. Got the OSPF process network command confused with the area range command. All right, so that should actually not area 0, sorry, area 3 is what we're dealing with. Area 3. All right, so that should resolve the issue. Let's say do show IP route OSPF, and that does not resolve the issue. So we've got the summary up there, but we're still getting advertisements. You can see all these member or component routes of the summary, right? And so let's take a look on the branch 3 router, and what is the IP of the branch 3 router? Let's get this here. 3.101. So let's telnet over to 192.168.3.101. The password CISCO. We'll get into privilege exec SCO, where we'll say show run section router OSPF and see what's going on. Aha! So that's the problem, is they've left the area range command, router OSPF1. So they misplaced the area range command is the problem. It wasn't that we didn't have one. It was that it was misplaced. So we're going to say no area, and it actually says area 0. Area 0 should be area 3. 172.16.0.0 and then 255.255.0.0. There we go. So let's say clear IP OSPF proc just for good measure. And then we're going to exit out of here, and we're back to the HQ router. Do show IP route OSPF, and that is not what I was anticipating. So it looks like do show IP OSPF neighbor, and hopefully we're going to get that tunnel 3 adjacency back. And we've got the adjacency back, but we should. Okay, so we have this back, but now we have all of the components again. Huh. So let's make sure do show run section router OSPF area 3 range 172.16.0.0 255.255.0.0, and that should do show IP route OSPF. Yeah, that did not do it. And now when I'm looking at this, you know what? It's because I'm in area 3. I've got an interface in area 3. Show IP route. There we go. Yeah, that was the problem. So I was on HQ expecting this to disappear, and then it dawned on me that I'm on the HQ router. I have an interface in area 3, so I'm seeing all of this information. Everything else behind me is going to end up seeing the summary. And so if I were to go on to router 2, show IP route OSPF, so I'll see the summary here and not all the component routes. But because I've got the interface in area 3 and I'm the ABR, and it was completely lost on me there for a second, that's why we are still seeing that routing information. Okay, so problem solved. And now we've got, it looks like, one more issue here, which they also kind of give us a big clue here. It says Tina reconfigured access restriction on branch 1. She wants to use the username password combo of admin Cisco if the AAA server is not reachable. So AAA new model is going to be in play here, I can guarantee it. And we're going to have to put in a AAA authentication line. Depending on what they might have in here already, we may have to, at the end, put local, right? And I'll explain what I'm talking about. It says, no, the AAA radius server has been purchased. It has not yet been purchased. Okay. Only branch 1's asking for a password. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get the branch 1 IP address, again 1101, so we should be able to get there now. So we say telnet 192.168.1.101. All right, so we can get over to branch 1 now, get into privilege exec. Oops, and that should be 0. There we go. So let's say show run include AAA, and let's see what we've got. So no AAA new model. Show run, let's go to the VTY lines here at the bottom and see. Yeah, so they're being prompted for the password Cisco here, and they want it to use the username. I think there's a username on here. Let's check that out. Yeah, username admin. So there's a password assigned on the local VTY line. It says login, not login local. And so this could be a tricky one, because what we could do, right, if they didn't mention AAA, what we could do is come into the VTY line and say login local. Right here, you could put login local, and we could pull the password off. And then what that would force is then you would have to log in using the local database. But they mention AAA, and they say that the AAA server hasn't been purchased yet, but that they want to ensure that you're going to be forced to log in with that. So here's what we're going to have to do. So we'll say AAA new model, because they have to be wanting us to enable this. Now, once we've got the AAA new model enabled, I'm going to say AAA authentication. Okay, this is going to be for the login, right? And so I can put default, or I could create a name, right? So I could say VTY and then create a group, right? But we can just simply use the default and local, right? And so that's what that means right now. So there is no AAA server, and so all we need to do is just say AAA authentication login is just going to be the default group, and then we say local. Use the local database. If I had a TACAC server, I could have said actually we'd have to do a group. I could say VTY local. I'm sorry, VTY group, and then here's where we can put in TACACs, radius, etc. Right? So if we had a radius server and a TACAC server, I could put those additional authentication methods in. But here, all we really need is AAA authentication, login, default, local, right? And what that does is it's basically going to force us to use the local database. And so let's test this out. And if we didn't do this right, this could be painful. So telnet 192.168.1.101, and so we say admin, whereas before I believe we only got the password prompt. So username admin, password is still Cisco because we're using the local database, and we are in. And so again, there is no TACAC server or radius server, so this will work. As soon as we bring in the TACAC or radius server, this is not what we want, because this is only doing the authentication to the locally defined user database. All right, well, that is going to wrap up the tutorial for challenge activity number 15, Bank of Polona. And to recap, we had 3 issues. Well, we had 3 tickets, multiple issues. The first was the tunnel was missing the IP address, and the OSPF process wasn't running on the interface. And that was pretty easy to hunt down with the show IP interface brief, and then we did a show IP route to realize, and then show IP OSPF neighbor to see there was no neighbor relationship forming. The documentation was wrong, or at least from my reading of the documentation, it was backwards in terms of IPs on those interfaces. And then we had the area range command. And again, my apologies for sitting on the HQ router and not realizing quick enough that, yeah, I've got an interface in Area 3, so guess what? I'm the ABR. We're going to see these routes. We're going to see all the individual routes. It's everything behind the ABR that is not going to see all the routing information, only the summary. And we saw that here on Router 1, and we saw it on Router 2. And then we had the authentication problem at the very end where they wanted it to authenticate to the local database using a username and password combo, and they mentioned AAA, so we went ahead and set it up with AAA. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Thursday night.